Now let's start with today's story. After I went bankrupt, my longtime friends abandoned me. My cousin's family went to the ancestral land behind the village that same night, dug up my parents' remains, and dumped them by the roadside. When I asked my business partners for a loan, they threw $200 at my feet. My girlfriend of 8 years also left me, turning her back on me and into the arms of another. To humiliate me further, she invited me to her wedding with her lover, and at the ceremony, she took the microphone, stood before everyone, and said, "Alexander, I'm pregnant, but unfortunately, the child is Malcolm's, not yours." The room fell into a deep silence, with countless eyes on me. I stood up, smiled faintly, and said, "I know. This is what I want. I want the whole world to abandon me." When my friend's business failed, he was devastated by the 10-year crisis, but it wasn't until that night at a barbecue stall that he broke down, cursing the world. I comforted him, telling him that there are still more kind and loyal people in the world. The next day, I went bankrupt. That night, when the news spread, I got a call from my childhood friend. My cousin's family had dug up my parents' remains. Furious, I rushed back to my hometown with my girlfriend, Rachel. At the L family's ancestral land, I found my cousin's family had dug up my parents' coffins and discarded them. Trembling with rage, I pointed at my cousin, shouting, "What are you doing?" Over the years, my cousin had prospered thanks to my company, and even when he embezzled funds to buy a house and car for his wife, I turned a blind eye. Now, seeing him and his wife smirking next to my parents' remains, I couldn't believe it. My cousin sneered, "This is my family's ancestral land. I can bury whoever I want here." I bitterly smiled, realizing he was taking advantage of my bankruptcy. My girlfriend stood silently beside me, her eyes filled with conflicting emotions. My cousin's wife mocked, "Don't think we don't know you're bankrupt. I heard you owe the bank more than $2 billion. Better you die alone than us having to bury you with your parents." I was in disbelief, never expecting the first betrayal to come from my cousin's family, people I considered close. Bloodshot eyes, I shouted, "If anyone dares to touch my parents' remains tonight, I'll fight to the death." But my cousin's family was too many. They beat me senseless with hoses, and in a fit of rage, my cousin raised a curved knife and slashed at my parents' coffins. I was overwhelmed, drenched in blood. That night, I went to my childhood friend's house, hoping they'd let me bury my parents there, but they stayed silent, cold in their attitude. I knocked door to door throughout the village, only to be rejected every time. Finally, Tom, who had a past dispute with my family, took pity on me. With his help and the help of others, we managed to carry my parents back to his ancestral land and bury them hurriedly. That night, sitting in the car, the pain inside me was unbearable, like my insides were being ripped apart. Rachel, 3 months pregnant, offered no comfort. After a long silence, she asked in a complicated tone, "Alexander, did you go bankrupt?" I didn't hide the truth and told her. "It'll get better," I said. I was terrified Rachel would leave me. Trembling, I grabbed her hand. "Chana, I'll borrow money. I'll make a comeback. Please don't abandon me, okay?" My eyes were bloodshot, humbled beyond belief. Rachel pulled her hand away, coldly replying, "I'm tired. Call me when you're in the city." Along the way, I tried to joke, forcing a smile to cheer her up, but she snapped, "Alexander, are you ever not annoying? I just want to sleep. Do you know you sound like a nagging old woman? And by the way, your jokes aren't funny at all." I stopped the car, held her hand, and repeatedly apologized. "I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm afraid after I went bankrupt, you'll leave me. Please don't be angry, okay? I'm really scared. I have nothing left now. If you leave me too, I won't be able to handle it." My pleas were met with silence. Not once did Rachel offer any comforting words after I had been beaten senseless by my cousin's family. When we returned to the city early the next morning, Rachel, with an emotionless expression, opened the car door and stepped out, her high heels clicking as she walked away. Just before she reached the door, she turned back and said, "Alexander, tonight you really lost your dignity." I hadn't slept in over a day, and I reached out to every friend I knew. But after hearing about my bankruptcy, all those who had once been inseparable from me, those who had looked up to me, suddenly changed their attitudes. It was painfully clear that, throughout the entire day, I couldn't borrow even a single cent. In a last-ditch effort, I went to a bar where a business partner had often taken care of me. When he saw me, he mocked, "Oh, isn't this Mr. Everett, our CEO? What brings you here?" I stood there, humiliated by the laughter of others. My business partner, Martin, sneered and said, "Mr. Everett, came here looking for a handout, huh?" I nodded slightly, not daring to meet his eyes. Martin opened 2 bottles of whiskey and said, "If you can drink these 2 bottles in one go, maybe I'll consider lending you some money." Without hesitation, I downed both bottles. Martin burst into laughter, then threw $200 at my feet, saying, "No need to borrow money. This $200 is for you. Don't starve to death." I bit my lip, staring at the money on the floor, and walked away, feeling lost and broken. Martin, once a small business owner, had been someone I'd taken care of, spending my own money to help him save his business. We called each other brothers, but now, in my moment of need, he tossed me a mere $200 as if I were nothing. All my friends had turned their backs on me, avoiding me like I had the plague. I sold my house and car, now wandering the streets, homeless. After drinking the 2 bottles of whiskey, I collapsed by a flower bed. In my despair, I called Rachel. "Rachel, I have nowhere to go. Can I stay at your place for a couple of nights?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Just as I was about to crack under the tension, she coldly replied, "Alexander, let's break up. Being with you, I'm exhausted. You can't give me the life I want." Before I could respond, she hung up. I immediately rushed to Rachel's house. When she saw my desperate state, she impatiently opened the door. Dropping to my knees without a shred of dignity left, I begged, my voice trembling, "Rachel, please don't leave me. I have nothing without you. I love you. I really love you. I swear, I'll pull through. Just give me a few years, and I'll give you the life you want." I clung to her legs, tears flowing uncontrollably, as I pleaded for her to stay. In just a few days, half the hair on my head had turned gray. "Rachel, all these years, I bought you bags worth over $100,000, watches worth tens of thousands, sports cars, and villas. I know you still keep those things. If you sell them, can you lend me some money?" I pleaded. 8 years, Rachel, a whole 8 years. Everyone around me treats me like this. I can endure it, but you can't. I gave you everything." Rachel, standing tall, crossed her arms and looked down at me. "Alexander, those things were gifts. You gave them to me willingly. They're mine now. Why should I sell them all to gamble on an uncertain future for you? I wasted 8 years of my life on you. Please, just let me go." Just then, her parents came out, along with Malcolm, her first love. The moment I saw him, I froze. Malcolm now had a smug look on his face as he held a kitchen knife in his hand. "If you dare to harass Rachel again, I'll break your legs," he said, his tone full of malice. "You're worse than a dog." I stammered, trying to plead. "But the villa you live in right now was bought by me. Are you telling me you won't even help me now when I'm in this situation?" Rachel's father snorted coldly. "The property deed is in my daughter's name now. If you think we're going to sell the house, you're dreaming." Rachel's mother began hitting me with a broom, while Malcolm watched with a gleeful expression. Malcolm, who came from a wealthy family, now drove a Mercedes and had everything he wanted. He sneered, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, in 2 weeks, I'm marrying Rachel." At that moment, the truth hit me like a lightning bolt. Rachel had been secretly seeing Malcolm all along. Rachel, completely indifferent to my begging, looked at me with cold disgust. "Alexander, tonight, you're like a dog. Thank God my daughter left you." Rachel's father showed me no mercy. In front of everyone, he belittled me until I felt like nothing. Trembling all over, I knelt there, feeling as though the world had turned its back on me completely. I spent 8 years and nearly $10 million on Rachel, almost sacrificing my entire life for her. What does money matter now? Life goes on without it. But Rachel slapped me hard across the face, shouting, "Alexander, stop embarrassing me. I don't love you anymore. The life I want, Malcolm can give me. You can't even afford a meal now. Do you want me to support you for the rest of your life?" Her parents finally kicked me out of her house. With only $50 left in my pocket, I tried contacting everyone I knew, but not even $500 could I borrow. In the days that followed, all the office equipment from my company was seized, and the collection calls never stopped. As Malcolm had predicted, 2 weeks later, he married Rachel. To add insult to injury, he specifically sent me an invitation to the wedding, even sending a photo of it. The wedding cost his family over $2 million. Determined, I went to the hotel where the reception was held. I still loved Rachel and clung to the last hope that I could somehow win her back. But as soon as I entered the banquet hall, all eyes turned to me. Whispers filled the air. "Isn't that the bankrupt Mr. Everett? What's he doing here, watching his girlfriend of 8 years marry another man?" Ignoring the whispers, I walked straight up to the stage and grabbed Rachel's hand. "Rachel, come with me," I pleaded. To my shock, she forcefully yanked her hand away from mine and slapped me in front of everyone. Alexander, who do you think you are? A penniless man like you is worse than a dog. How dare you ruin someone else's wedding? Laughter erupted from the crowd. Her parents rushed to the stage, punching and kicking me. Her mother sneered, Alexander, have you even looked at yourself in the mirror? Rachel looked at me with a mix of mockery and disdain before saying, oh, I forgot to tell you, Alexander. I'm pregnant, but the baby isn't yours. It's Malcolm's. Those words hit me like a blow to the chest. My mind went blank, and I staggered backward, almost collapsing. I closed my eyes for a moment, and when I opened them again, I smiled bitterly. When I had money, the world revolved around me. Now that I was broke, I was as low as a dog in their eyes. My cousin's family dug up my parents' bodies, all my friends distanced themselves, and even my girlfriend of 8 years didn't hesitate to betray me. I paused, tears streaming down my face. Is this how you all see me now? Her mother tossed $1,000 at me, demanding, get off the stage. Everett, you've just been clinging to my daughter because you wanted money. I didn't even look at the cash scattered on the ground. Instead, I looked at Rachel and asked, so, was our love really built on money? Rachel's mocking smile grew. You don't even have a penny left. Don't think I'll fall for your tricks. You're just using this excuse to win me back. She gestured for security, and the crowd started to gossip. I think Alexander snapped. Someone whispered, doesn't he realize what he looks like, trying to steal someone else's bride? Before I could leave, I saw my cousin's family rush in, looking tired and dusty. As soon as my cousin's wife saw me, she screamed, I knew it. Rachel's getting married today, and I knew Alexander would show up. My cousin grabbed me by the collar, growling, don't think because your company went bankrupt that everything's over. I still own 10% of the company's shares, and at its peak, those shares were worth over $20 million. Hand them over. Under the gaze of the crowd, I calmly looked at my cousin and said, when I started with nothing, your family was drowning in more than $2 million of gambling debt. I used my own money to pay off those debts. Your parents came to me, kneeling outside my company, begging me to give you a job and a chance. The 10% stake you have in the company was a gift from me. You've embezzled company funds, lived recklessly, and bought your wife a house and car. The holes you dug, I paid to fill. Turning to Rachel's family, my voice grew louder. For 8 years, I bought you bags, watches, luxury cars, and villas. And what did I get in return? Rachel's mother sneered. That was your choice, wasn't it, Alexander? You're just an idiot. You've got no one to blame but yourself. Without warning, my cousin punched me in the face, knocking me to the ground. His broad frame pressed down on me as he placed his foot firmly on my face, while his parents held down my arms and legs. My cousin didn't relent, shouting, Alexander, my 10% stake is worth $20 million. Don't think I don't know where you buried your parents. If you don't hand over the money, I'll go back to the village and dig up your parents' bones and feed them to the dogs. His parents laughed cruelly. Rachel, arms crossed, looked at me with satisfaction. My cousin's mother added, how about we strip him of everything he's worth and sell it to pay the debt? Debt should be paid. It's only right. I struggled fiercely, but it was useless. My cousin's foot stayed planted on my face. Malcolm laughed. Even if you beat him to death, he won't have a penny to his name. My cousin grinned. It's fine if he can't pay. Alexander, don't forget how you used to boss me around. If you crawl through my legs in front of everyone today, I'll let you go. At that moment, I broke free. My mind went blank, and I threw a punch at my cousin's face. But before I could throw a second punch, he knocked me to the ground, blood pouring from my head. His strike was brutal, and I curled up on the ground, clutching my head. Soon, my cousin's wife and his parents joined in, and within minutes, I was lying in a pool of blood, on the brink of death. Rachel coldly ordered, drag him out. Don't dirty up my wedding reception. I was thrown into a car and dumped in front of the hospital. Nurses rushed to carry me inside, my face mangled and nearly disfigured. I stayed in the hospital for several days, during which I saw photos of Rachel and Malcolm's honeymoon on social media. In the photos, Rachel looked sweet and happy, leaning against Malcolm's chest, wearing the watch I had bought her, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Throughout my hospital stay, not a single person came to visit me. A week later, I finally managed to leave the hospital. The opening ceremony for Nova Enterprises was about to begin. Ignoring my still healing injuries, I dressed in a suit, hailed a taxi, and headed there early. As soon as I arrived at the entrance, I saw 5 brand new Bentleys parked outside. To my surprise, I ran into Rachel's family, many of my former business partners, and even my cousin's family, who had entered the venue with business owners they had gotten to know over the years. Inside, the venue was already packed. When Rachel saw me, her face first showed confusion, then quickly turned into a disdainful sneer. "Alexander, what are you doing here?" she asked. Malcolm, my cousin, and his parents turned around at the sound of her voice. I spread my arms and smiled. "I'm here for the opening ceremony of Nova Enterprises." For some reason, I didn't feel anger toward Rachel anymore. When I looked at her, I wasn't furious or heartbroken. I felt nothing. Malcolm shook his head and laughed. "Alexander, you know today is Nova Enterprises' opening ceremony. Do you really think you're still the old Everett, the CEO? If you knew it was Nova Enterprises, then you should know this isn't the kind of place a beggar like you should be at." My cousin's mother spoke up, sneering. "I think this Everett guy is so broke he can't even afford a meal. Who knows where he heard the news and came here to scam food and drinks?" She raised her voice, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. "Attention, all the bosses. Be careful of this beggar. His name is Alexander. His company went bankrupt, and he's so poor he can barely eat. He snuck in here to steal food. Keep an eye on your valuables, and don't let this beggar take them while you're distracted." With that, my cousin's family turned their attention to me. I felt like the center of attention as my cousin walked toward me, laughing. "Alexander, I didn't expect you to be this tough, managing to get out of the hospital in just over a week. You didn't sneak in here to steal something, did you?" The commotion caught the attention of the hostess, who approached me to check my invitation. I shook my head. "I don't need an invitation to be here." Rachel, who had been watching the scene unfold, couldn't hold herself back anymore. She mocked me. "Alexander, in a place like this, you don't even matter. Who do you think you are, the boss of Nova Enterprises? And you say you don't need an invitation?" Amid the laughter and mockery from the crowd, I casually nodded and smiled. "You're right. I am the boss of Nova Enterprises." Rachel rolled her eyes. "Alexander, I think you've really lost it. Good thing I broke up with you back then." My cousin laughed loudly. "Everett, if you're the boss here, then I must be Jesus. Don't put a pig's nose through a leak pretending to be an elephant." I ignored their insults. I wasn't bothered anymore. They could mock me all they wanted, but one day, I would have my revenge, 100-fold if necessary. Without hesitation, I reached out and slapped my cousin across the face, his eyes wide with shock. "You're going to regret this, Scott," I said. His wife sneered. "Everett, you should leave now. You're in no position to act like this. Nova Enterprises is a key focus of the city, and if anything goes wrong, you won't be able to handle the consequences. Where are the security guards? Get this beggar out of here." The room fell silent. Even my former business partners exchanged strange looks. Before anyone could say anything else, a woman in a stylish outfit took the microphone and walked up to the stage. Everyone knew that the opening ceremony for Nova Enterprises was about to begin. I found a seat and sat down casually. The woman on stage spoke quickly, outlining the future development and grand vision for Nova Enterprises. Then, she addressed the crowd. "Next, let's invite the CEO of Nova Enterprises to give a speech." I slowly stood up and walked toward the stage. As I walked past Rachel, she froze for a moment and said, "Alexander, the CEO of Nova Enterprises is called that, not you." On the other side, my cousin's family and several of my former business partners stared at me in disbelief. I ignored them, turned to Rachel, and smiled. "I told you, I am the CEO of Nova Enterprises. Don't you know that Nova Enterprises is a restructured company? We broke up the old group, integrated resources, and created something much larger. But with someone like you, who only cares about money, you wouldn't understand." As I walked toward the stage, several senior company executives who were seated near the podium stood up, one by one, nodding and greeting me. "Mr. Everett." The number of people standing and acknowledging me grew steadily. When I reached the stage, I took the microphone from my secretary. I didn't offer any polite pleasantries. Instead, I looked down at Rachel's family and my cousin's family, who now looked pale with shock. "Today, during the opening ceremony of Nova Enterprises, I have a few announcements to make," I began. "First, as the CEO of Nova Enterprises, I am announcing that we will be suspending all business collaborations with former clients. Second, I will unite with some like-minded friends to target Malcolm's family business. Third, the entire legal department of Nova Enterprises will do everything in its power to sue Scott for embezzlement and illegal appropriation of company funds at his previous company. Fourth, I will recover every penny I spent over the past 8 years on my ex-girlfriend." With every word I spoke, Rachel's face grew paler. My cousin, already slumped on the ground, had gone ashen. I stood on stage, smiling at my cousin, knowing that the amount of embezzled funds he had stolen was enough to imprison him for life. Although I had personally covered those debts, I had kept all the evidence of his embezzlement close to me. After making my statements, I handed the microphone back to the senior executives and turned to leave the stage. But before I could reach the elevator, Rachel and my cousin's family rushed over to me. Rachel, emotional, grabbed my arm and spoke frantically. "Alexander, if you weren't bankrupt, why did you lie to me?" I shrugged and smiled. When did I ever say I went bankrupt? The company simply restructured and needed a larger space. You mistook that for bankruptcy. Since you believed I was bankrupt, I just went along with your assumption and pretended to be. If I hadn't, would I have been able to see your true color? Rachel, panicked, gripped my hand tightly. "I'm sorry, Alexander. I didn't mean it. It's my parents. When they found out you were bankrupt, they kept pressuring me to break up with you." She turned and shouted at my cousin's parents, "It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I would never have broken up with Alexander." In a fit of anger, Rachel shoved her mother-in-law to the ground. "You two old fools. Why did you force me to marry Malcolm? It's all your fault." Rachel hurriedly knelt in front of me. "Alexander, please forgive me. Give me another chance. If it weren't for my parents, I would never have broken up with you." I kicked Rachel away coldly and spoke to her with contempt. "Rachel, have I ever given you a chance? Do you know that night I kneeled in front of you and begged you not to leave? I was giving myself one last bit of hope." I paused and continued, "Rachel, we'll see each other in court. Everything your family has spent of mine over the years, I'll take back every single cent." My cousin and his wife were blocking the elevator doors, their faces pale with fear. My cousin's wife and his parents grabbed at my arms, pleading with me not to call the police. I slapped my cousin's wife across the face and coldly responded, "I've already been more than generous to your family. I can let anyone off, but not your family." It seemed something clicked in my cousin's wife's mind, and she quickly said, "Alexander, don't forget my husband still has 10% of the shares in your company." I smiled and replied, 10% of the shares were in the old company. What does that have to do with the current Nova Enterprises? Besides, haven't you looked at the contract? There's a clause that says the shares were given to you for free, but if I ever change my mind, I can buy them back for $1 at any time. You can't refuse. You fools didn't read it carefully. You heard that I was giving you shares, and you eagerly signed your names without thinking. My cousin's family was utterly defeated now. My cousin's parents started cursing at me. "Alexander, Scott is your cousin. We're family." I laughed in anger and pointed at the two elderly people. "Family? When I went bankrupt that night, you dug up my parents' bones from the Everett family's ancestral land. You five beat me until my head was bloody. And at Rachel's wedding, you tortured me to the brink of death. Did you treat me like family then?" I crouched down and slapped my cousin across the face. "Scott, with the more than 10 million you embezzled, you'll be doing hard labor in prison for many years, trash. Even if I lose everything, I'll make sure your whole family never finds peace." I tried to leave, but Rachel grabbed my foot. "Alexander, I was wrong. I know I was wrong." She cried uncontrollably. "I'll go get an abortion and divorce Malcolm if you're willing to forgive me. I can sever ties with my parents right now." I smiled at her with disdain. "Rachel, you're just a woman who lifts others up only to step on them. Now that you've come crawling back to me, I don't even want to look at you. I can't imagine a woman more worthless than you." I turned to leave, kicking Rachel off me. "Get ready to sell your house and car," I said coldly as I entered the elevator. No sooner had I left than the police arrived and took my cousin Scott away. As for the house and car, I sold them both. I wanted to buy a larger villa and upgrade to a more luxurious car brand. After the bankruptcy, I saw human nature for what it truly was. In front of a Bentley, I ran into my friend, the one who had failed in a business venture with me. He looked at my nearly gray hair and smiled. "Looks like you've been through more than I have these days, Alexander. Did I win the bet?" I nodded slightly. "You won, my friend." He smirked. "Our bet turned out to be meaningless." I shook my head and disagreed. "No, to me, it was very meaningful. You showed me the true side of human nature. I only came up with this idea on a whim while the company was restructuring, but I ended up losing terribly. If it weren't for that impromptu bet, I wouldn't have pretended to go bankrupt, and I wouldn't have seen people's true colors. They had been lurking around me, shamelessly draining me dry." The next day, my cousin's wife and his parents found my newly bought villa. They knelt at the door, begging me to let Scott off the hook. They were remorseful, crying and pleading. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window on the second floor, watching with interest. When I no longer had any use for them, they didn't even have the right to see me. My heart had become colder and more merciless. After enough of watching their miserable state, I called the property management and had them send security to escort these pests out of the villa community. My company's legal department worked efficiently. Almost the day after Scott's arrest, they presented all the evidence of his embezzlement. Since the evidence was complete, the collection process was expedited. After being detained for 5 or 6 days, Scott was handed over to the court for prosecution. He had embezzled $12 million, a large sum with serious consequences. He was sentenced to 12 years with no chance of appeal, and all his illegal earnings were to be recovered. If he couldn't pay it back, he'd have to sell his house and cars. The situation unfolded so quickly that Scott didn't have time to transfer any assets. All the cash and real estate under his name were seized by the court. As for Rachel's family, in an effort to win me back, Rachel severed ties with her parents. While they didn't show up, Rachel sat at the entrance of my new villa every day. No matter how many times I tried to drive her away, she remained unmoved. I blocked her number and deleted her on WhatsApp, but she kept shouting in front of my villa, "Alexander, I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened to my parents and broken up with you. We've been together for 8 years. Can you really just abandon me?" I couldn't take it anymore and opened the villa door. Rachel immediately rushed forward, trying to push the door open to enter, but I stopped her with my hand. "Rachel, how did I never realize how shameless you are? What status do you think you have to deserve to step foot in this villa?" Rachel grabbed my hand and refused to let go. "Alexander, give me a chance to make things right," she begged. "I'll compensate you double. I've had an abortion and severed ties with my parents. If you don't want me, I'll be homeless. Do you really have the heart to let me freeze to death on the street?" I forcefully shook her off and coldly sneered. "Your life or death has nothing to do with me, Rachel. You really are a two-faced slave. Right now, you don't even deserve to stand in front of me and say a word. Scott's already been sent to prison. Now it's your turn." Rachel's face turned pale with despair. I dialed the police, reporting that a woman with ill intentions had been loitering in front of my house every day. I suspected she was casing the place, waiting for an opportunity to rob me. Rachel was taken away by the police, and her prosecution proceeded as planned. Every large sum of money I had transferred to Rachel, luxury bags, watches, and cars, was all part of our intended marriage, even though there was no written agreement. The court would support it. It took me several days to organize all the gifts I had given Rachel over the past 8 years. The total amounted to more than $30 million, including the villa I had bought for her, which cost $15 million, and the 4 or 5 luxury cars under her name, worth over $10 million. Over $30 million, and not once did Rachel contribute a penny. Yet, she still had the audacity to kneel in front of her house and beg. The court quickly scheduled a trial for Rachel. As the plaintiff, I presented all the records of the large transfers to Rachel, invoices for luxury items, and the villa. It was a thick stack of evidence. Rachel tried to resist, but with the overwhelming proof, the trial didn't take long, and the verdict was handed down. She lost the case and was ordered to pay back over $30 million. In the courtroom, Rachel collapsed. Even though she had severed ties with her parents, their villa would be repossessed and auctioned off. Years ago, Rachel's family sold their old house to move into the villa, but now they had squandered the money. In other words, Rachel's parents would have nowhere to go, with over $30 million in debt. They couldn't even afford to rent a house. I ignored their pleas as I walked out of the courtroom. That night, I had been confident in front of my friend, believing that no one would ever abandon me. Now, looking back on the past month, all the experiences boiled down to 2 words: human nature. After pretending to go bankrupt, I left chaos in my wake. All those who had kicked me when I was down didn't escape. Everything they had taken from me would be paid back tenfold. This revenge was far from over. It had just begun. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.